Okay, Year 11, welcome to your video tutorial. We are going to start Aboriginal spirituality today, and we're going to start with a look at what the dreaming is. The syllabus dot point that we're going to be covering in the next few tutorials is in regards to the nature of the dreaming, and you're asked to outline it in relation to these four different things: origins, sacred sites, stories, and symbolism and art. Before you can do that, however, you need to have a clear understanding of what the dreaming actually is. Now, when we come to defining the dreaming, this becomes difficult. The dreaming as a concept is incredibly complex and very difficult for people in the Western world to understand for a whole myriad of reasons. I'm going to try and define it in the best possible way I can, in possibly the most objective and slightly superficial terms. The first thing I wanted to do was clarify the difference between the dreamtime and the dreaming. You guys, when we use the word dreaming, may or may not know what I'm talking about. Some people might think, oh, it's that rainbow serpent story. The dream time refers to a period in time that Aboriginal peoples recognise that is the time when the ancestral beings came to Earth and created the land and the people within it. That is the dream time. The dreaming, ing, is a very different concept. It is a term used and plastered against anything that has to do with beliefs and practices in Aboriginal communities. It's a term used to describe a central concept which underpins all of their everyday life. It determines how knowledge is transferred. It determines kingship ties. That word kingship we're going to look at in a little while. That's relational ties. And so in Aboriginal communities, it's not necessarily blood ties, but rather these greater kingship ties that determine responsibility. The dreaming is not a religion. The dreaming is a term used to refer to Aboriginals' understanding of what we will call a spirituality. Here's where the dreaming gets a little bit tricky. Aboriginals people see the world in patterns, in relationships, whereas Westerners commonly see time as a linear event, okay? And what do I mean by that? I mean, in a line, we have years and dates. That happened in 1965. The future is going to be 2015. We almost see time as a line. Aboriginal people don't. They see their understanding of the world as a mesh of past, present, and future. The dreaming is a concept which attempts to explain the relationship between past, present, and future. The dreaming is both the past, the present, and the future. It doesn't just solely dictate what I am here and now and why. It doesn't say this is where I'm going. It doesn't say this is where I've come from, but rather these three concepts interweave to form the dreaming. An Aboriginal person's present is directly connected to and affected by the past. So too is the past dictated and affected by the future. The future determines the present way in which Aboriginal people should act. It's all this weird interrelatedness, and the dreaming attempts to explain that interrelated relationship. This idea of having a spirituality that is not connected to time and place is known as meta-temporal, and therefore the dreaming is defined as a meta-temporal concept. It explains how Aboriginals came to be, who they are, and where they're going. And it explains all those three things as an interconnected, woven system. Okay, therefore, being interconnected in this way, and we're going to have a look at this later, the main connection dreaming has is to the land. The land is the place where the ancestors live. The land is the way in through which is the main medium through which the dreaming is communicated. It's how they understand their world. The dreaming is also expressed through art and story, and the dreaming as a concept is made present through their relationships and their kingship ties. It's an incredibly complex notion, but hopefully it will start to make sense as we study it through these different lenses of stories, origins, sacred sites, and symbolism and art.